Hail, hail. Good evening, folks, and welcome along to the Endless Celts Podcast. The usual Monday night crew are all back together. I'm Anthony, and the host chair of the night. Delighted to be joined by my two regular Monday night team, Franny and McGinty. How you doing, boys?
All good. We nearly made it on time. I've got to hold my hands up. I'm the reason we've not made it on time, but we'll get there one day.
Fashionably late, mate. Fashionably late, as always. Did Lynn have a good birthday Friday night?
It was a good night. It was a good night, mate. Wee bit drunk, but it's part of the course, isn't it?
So I was up at the pub myself on Saturday night. We were there for Darren's night for the shows. Brilliant night. The place was looking well. What about yourself, McGinty? Good weekend, mate?
Yeah, no bad weekend. Another win for Celtic is obviously always a good thing to come on a Monday night podcast for. But other than football, everything's all good, man. All good. Yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't my fault for being the 2 minutes late this week.
I don't think it's ever been your fault, to be fair. Again, I don't think you're ever the reason.
I don't know.
And he's on the Monday Club beverage tonight. Is that a wee beer amaretti you've got?
Indeed it is.
Good man. Now, before we go any further, you were just telling us off air about your shirt of choice this week. This is Barcelona's third kit from, was it 17-18? You said
17-18, the third choice kit for that season. I'm not actually sure how many times they played in it, to be honest. As I said to you off stream as well, it's one of the ones that I kept from the collection before I condensed them all down, purely because it fits nicer than some of the other ones.
Always helps when it's fitted. Good man. And welcome along everybody in the comments as well. Pardon my big finger on the screen there. We've got Paul, we've got Christoph, we've got Patrick McLaughlin, we've got all the usual clan, we've got 420 somewhere, and the rest. So welcome along, guys, and just get we'll bring up all the comments in the chat as well as it goes on. I hope you all have a good weekend and welcome along. And before we go any further, Franny, if you could just give us the little intro video of what's coming up tonight.
Sound.
Superb stuff. Wally with making the video, the pre-match video on TikTok again. Thanks for that, mate. So boys, we'll just get stuck right into it. We'll go back looking at the game yesterday. McGinty, will come to yourself first. Obviously, it was the second of a double header on Sky in terms of Scottish football yesterday. We'd seen our rivals sort of huff and puff and struggle in the early kick-off at St Mirren Park before we then took to the field against Dundee at Dens. And I would probably say both sides going for the title, it probably wasn't the most vintage of displays, but I suppose a win's a win at this point in the season.
It is indeed, especially when you're talking the last 5 games now, 4 games. nobody wants to drop points before the 11th of May, and I think both sides probably know that that's the big one. Celtic win that one, league's done. Rangers win it, it's completely game on for both teams in the last two games. So it really is, although obviously if we both win next week or both draw or both lose, matching each other's results next week, then the game on the 11th obviously isn't technically a title decider because mathematically we would need one more point, but what's the chances that Celtic don't get that one extra point in the last two games somehow? So it's games that you can see some nerves coming in, I think, from both sets of players, but taking both games on their own, taking both clubs on their own, rather, that's another game for them in a long line of games now of really poor performances, struggling to get the wins, and I don't see how they're going to keep this up for the rest of the season. 4 more games isn't a long time, but for them, that's high pressure for them not to drop points. Whereas for us, it's home advantage come the 11th. We're playing decent football. Although it wasn't the most glamorous of games, you have to remember the pitch that we were playing on was bobbly as hell. It didn't actually look that bad compared to all the all the aggro and all the highlights and headlines it was getting for the last month. It wasn't that bad, but it did bobble in a lot of places. But even still, look at that game. Kuna had a good chance in the first half. Hatate hits the post. Kyle was making good runs. Even with Forrest's goal, he's making the run off of Forrest, looking for the 1-2. So he's making those runs. The team's playing well. They're looking good. Aside from the own goal that Adam Ida's in a terrible position. It's a typical striker's position, isn't it? When you're defending a cross in like that from the corner, it just is what it is. It's pure bad luck. But if we went out of that game 2-0 up the way that we played, I don't think we would be saying, a win's a win at the end of the day. I think we would be looking at that game and thinking, you know what, 2 goals, clean sheet, that would have been good. But the Adam Ida own goal, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, as we do see, it is 3 points.
Absolutely, 3 points, and what we hope, if we just keep this up, will get us over the line, Franny. I think McGinty summed it up well there. The own goal takes the shine off it a wee bit, Franny. But up until then, chances were made, goals were scored, and we were certainly answering the questions that rivals were asking of us from earlier on in the day.
We were obviously the Rangers playing before they've got a chance to put a bit of pressure on. I've seen most of the second half. I've never seen much of the first half. And they didn't look any great shakes, but they got the win. So they put the pressure on us to then answer back. Excuse me, which I'm of a slightly different opinion to McGinty. I don't think. I thought we started the game great. I think we had about 5 shots in the first 10, 15 minutes. But then Dundee started to find their way in the game. You could maybe argue we scored a wee bit against the run of play with James Forrest's goal. And similar in the second half, I don't think we came out great in the second half. And again, you maybe could argue again we scored against the run a wee bit of run of the play, against the run of play, sorry. And then the own goal, like I have to say, it is what it is. The striker just is not his natural instinct to run out and keep the line, if you like. And I think he just gets stuck in there. And then his attempted clearance is very poor, but it's one of them. I just think it was a striker just in a position where he wasn't in actual want to be in. He's tried to just take a big swipe at it and totally is made a bit of an arse it, to be fair to the big fella, but I'm not going to go all in on the guy's done great since he came in. He's done what we all would hope he would do. But for me, it wasn't a great performance. It wasn't terrible. I feel it. The second half, I felt a wee bit. I was annoyed watching the second half. But to maybe add a wee bit of balance to it, at 12:30 in the day, if you offered me being 3 points ahead, the status quo, if you like, with a game less to play, obviously we've not increased the goal difference. The points tally is still the same. It's one less game for us to potentially slip up on. It's one less game for them to claw back. So I would, it might not be great for the ticker, it might not be great to watch, but I'd take that for the remainder of the season. And Dennis, I know we want a bit of form, but it's all about getting this league over the line right now for me, Anthony. So if we've got to go through that for the remaining 4 games, I will inevitably take it. It's obvious as it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely, mate. And Celtic, take there, saying you're glad you're finally at that hotel room and back in the house.
I know.
You been doing much travelling this week with the work?
No. I don't think we'll talk off air, Anthony, but I don't think we'll be doing that for a wee while now.
All right, okay, fair enough. Say no more. But no, that's fair, mate. And like you said, Mark's actually saying there that if he's perhaps been at the game, and he says that it's not the feeling inside the ground wasn't quite as nerve-wracking as perhaps the Sky commentary team were making it out to be. I think that's, we'll probably go off on a little bit of a tangent here, McGinty, but one of the bloggers that we follow, friend of the show, aptly named James Forrest, did mention that in one of his articles today about the sort of difference in how both teams were getting covered. The way that I only seen bits and bobs of the game for St Mirren because I then made my way down to the pub to watch the game. But they certainly didn't look like any great shakes. But the way that they were being spoke about was the sort of, that's how titles are won. You dig points out and all this kind of malarkey. Whereas when Celtic went and done the exact same thing, the exact same scoreline, an hour later, it was almost as if we were in a crisis. And I think it's that double standards that often frustrate the Celtic fans when it comes to the Sky's coverage of the game.
Well, exactly. Both games had an own goal, didn't they? One went in their favour, and they needed that to get a result. Tells it its own story really compared to ours. But as I said earlier, that the own goal that we scored against ourselves is more of a happens moment to us, whereas to them they need it to salvage something from their game. So to me, that's a bigger headline, a bigger story, a bigger whatever you want to say about it in the media. But we know what the media is like up here all the time with them. It's especially now we're into the 2 weeks before Glasgow Derby game. It's going to wrap it up that even though they've got players on pre-contract agreements to go to Turkey, they've got 2 or 3 players about to be earmarked for Saudi Arabia. Apparently, go figure. Managers on a 10-game streak where he's only won 3 or something stupid like that. They're in turmoil. They're in crisis. Yeah, you're going to get ramped up there. They're digging out results, and this is the sign of champions. Whereas we're going to be the ones who are all of a sudden Brendan Rodgers is going to West Ham, or Nicholas Kuhn is getting sold, or Lewis Palmer's now off because he's changed agents apparently, because that never happens in football. We're going to get all these little snippets coming out to disrupt us. That happens every time. I'm not going to be two-faced by it.
That's it. It's we always. It's just something that's possibly priced into our thinking. To be fair, but yeah, that's in terms of the match itself. But we'll obviously just discuss the two goals, and we might as well just discuss either's own goal as well. But as we say, perhaps wasn't a classic yesterday, McGinty, but the first goal for James Forrest is fit to win any match. Taking it on the half volley, first time, right into the bottom corner, giving the Dundee goalkeeper, who I thought was having a decent game up until that point, absolutely no chance.
It was a beautiful goal. If it wasn't for the fact I think Sky had was it earlier on that day, or was it yesterday? I don't know. Sky recently just announced the goal of the season contenders. If it wasn't for that already probably deadline happening, that would be up there as one of the best goals of the season. The movement, the pass from Kyogo initially, the movement from Kyogo, which I know is not technically part of the goal at this point, but it still was really energetic and good to see. But it's the way the ball bounces to Forrest and the half volley just struck so sweetly. It was a well-taken goal. I'm usually quite meh about long-distance goals, and it's going to be a tangent and sound a bit weird. I always know Gavin Bhoys blasted me for this one. I reckon that any professional footballer should be able to strike a ball from about 20-25 yards and reasonably hit the target. So I'm not overly wowed by a simple long-range shot personally. But when you're going to do a shot like that on the half volley, he's twisting his body around, it's bounced at him. I think that's a really well-taken goal, a really nice goal.
Absolutely. And then, Franny, you said, did you catch it in real time? I know you said you were sort of having to, but you didn't see all the first half. Did you manage to catch that goal?
Sorry, that was it. I was talking about the Rangers game and I've never seen it all. No, I did see this in real time, and I don't know if Kyogo's meant that layoff. If it has, it's a fantastic layoff. But either way, it's James Forrest's finish. He's obviously, whether Kyogo means it or not is irrelevant really for me. It's James Forrest is there. He reacts to the situation. He's aware of the situation, and I think what you could argue that it is a layoff is Kyogo's. You see with the shot that Kyogo has made a run. He's either there for the 1-2 or he's making that run for the rebound. So either way, it's whatever way you want to look at it or whatever way you see that touch. It's great play for Kyogo in the sense that it is alert for the return pass or a rebound. But James Forrest, what a strike it is. I wouldn't say it's out of nowhere. It's not something that James Forrest has that in his locker. I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves for his finishing ability. I think he's a really good finisher. And I think that's
a really tidy finisher, Franny. He's a really tidy finisher. And a lot of his shots and a lot of his goals, which is kind of reminded me of him a wee bit just now. A lot of them are that kind of low curved shot from the edge of the box, kind of from the left side to the right or right to the left. And you almost look at them and you think the keeper needs to save that. It's not a lot of power. He's right placed about it. So when you see a goal like that yesterday, that seems different from what he's used to. Yet his reactions to it and his ability is top notch. I had to say a really fucking good goal. It was a joy to watch.
I totally wasn't like I say. I think he has got great finishing ability, and he's generally is a good striker of the ball when he gets into the positions. And then, like I say, Dundee were just kind of maybe getting their tails ahead in terms of momentum and stuff like that. So just that kind of kills them and settles any nerves that we and maybe the fans had. I know Mark had mentioned earlier it didn't seem like that at the game and stuff, and certainly listening to it on telly, watching on telly, it didn't seem like the fans were getting there. But I said it the other week there, I think the fans will be keyed at not to get on the players' back and just stick with them, which I think the fans will stick with them because there will be, I think I said at the time as well, there will be sticky moments, and Dundee yesterday was a sticky moment at times, and I think the fans did stick by him. But I go back to James Forrest's finish for that first. It's up there. It'll be up there with one of the best goals this season. Easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just come right back to you again, Franny, just with regards to the second goal. Completely different type of finish, but it was just that kind of anticipation from Forrest in the first place to close it down, won the ball back, and Hatate picks it up. Gets that little break of the ball with the two Dundee defenders sort of having a bit of a mix up, but it all felt again Forrest's first time just drilling it underneath, and that did settle a lot of nerves because you just always want that second goal, don't you?
I always want that second goal, especially maybe if the game drags on. It can get a wee bit nerving. You start making the players maybe start making some silly decisions and stuff like that. But like you said, Anthony, James Forrest closes the ball down well, wins it back. It obviously breaks to Hatate. Don't really think Hatate plays the best pass in the world, but nonetheless, James Forrest shows a wee bit of determination and gets his reward for that. The ball breaks to him. And it's, again, I know it might not look it, but I think that's a really good finish on his weaker foot. He's kept the ball low. It's probably not what you would class as a textbook striker's finish, but I think a lot of strikers would say when you're of that sort of range and kind of close to the keeper, just keep it low and aim for the keeper's legs, because the keeper's probably expecting it to go either side of him. And then it's just when you hit it that low and that hard straight to their legs, it's hard for them to react. And the guy got his rewards for a wee bit, for firstly winning the ball back, showing a wee bit of determination and a wee bit of heart to just try and win against two Dundee defenders, because he got yes, the ball ricochets, but he gets the better of two boys and then scores a goal. And like I said earlier, it was slightly against the run of play where we just hadn't started that second half. And then obviously you get that goal, and for me it was from that moment up till I know got it till he does goal. I thought we maybe pick one or two other goals up and it might help that goal difference. Wasn't to be. As I say, we'll go on to the own goal, but great. Two good goals for James Forrest, and off the back he's won his performance in the cup semi-final. I think the guy could become pivotal for this running.
Well, certainly hope so. But yeah, McGinty, we thought if somebody had told me Ida's going to be on the score sheet when he came on, thought, well, that was just that we'll round the match off nicely and it'll be a nice stress-free 3-0 victory. But yeah, certainly caused a few hiccups at the back. Again, it's probably one of the reasons why there is more of a title race this year, and it's with the fact that these silly, cheap goals that we have conceded throughout the course of the season. It was one of those ones, like you say, it's a striker's touch sort of thing, but definitely frustrating, and it just sort of made, certainly on the telly anyway, those last 5 minutes a little bit nervy.
It certainly does. I'm actually just watching the replay back just now. At the same time, it's such a striker's thing to do, and it's an uneducated striker thing to do. And I put that down to his age, and I'm not making that as a slight. It just is he's a younger guy and all the rest of it. But he's on the near post, and he eventually just kind of bobbles out and almost gets in front of Hart, and just kind of he's stuck there in no man's land. He's not marking anybody. He's not doing anything. The ball kind of comes over to him. The ball's probably going out, potentially hitting the post, and he just pops his leg out, just reactionary. I'll need to make myself bigger. Leg goes out, and he takes it away from Hart, who's possibly going in the right direction. Possibly might get to it, but completely blindsides him. He needs to learn how to do it. If he's going to be asked to be on the near post, he needs to learn how to do that position better, because you can't just flail around in the 6-yard box just dilly-dally. You need to be a bit more switched on. But I don't mean that as too much of a slight, because again, he is 23. He's only had 2 seasons under his belt. He's a striker, and it is what it is at the end of the day. It never done any real damage to us, so I'm not going to get too caught up on it.
Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. And Franny, you similar thoughts or anything else to kind of what your thoughts were on it?
Very similar. Like I say, I think it showed that he was a striker, that his natural instinct wasn't to sort of rush out and get up with the sort of backlines, and obviously he was left hanging in there only a few yards in front of Joe Hart and stuff, so he wasn't defensively wasn't in a great position when the ball broke out. But I suppose, I mean, I'm not going to try and defend the clearance for that. I think it was a terrible attempted clearance for the guy. Joe Hart, it leaves Joe Hart with no chance. Look, these things happen in football. They'll happen again, where a guy will just go to the best players will try and clear the ball at times and make an arse of it, essentially. Right. So I'm not got to go totally all in on the guy in that sense. I suppose one other angle we can maybe look at is the boy that actually scores it has 2 goals at that. He has it 1 goal and it gets blocked before it has a second shot that then inevitably goes in. So maybe you could ask questions of the defence and why is a guy getting 2 shots for about 16 yards and we're not really clearing it. So there's that. But it's like I say, I don't think he'd have covered his selling glory with the OG. But these things happen in football. In fairness to Ida, I don't think could probably but a lot of players. I don't think many of them had good, really top games. Yes, I don't think Ida was great when he came on with his back to goal. I don't think he held the ball up well at all yesterday. But like Anthony's saying, he's a young boy. He's not, for 23. He's not got a lot of professional football under his belt. And as I say, It was just one of the moments. Well, what happened in football? Yes, it's not great, but what can you do?
What can you do indeed? But as I say, we did get over the line, thankfully, and the gap remains. One of the sort of debates that's been coming up in regards to personnel on the pitch, McGinty, is it's certainly, it was a lot in our group chat today, but you've seen it on a lot of the wider sort of Celtic pages. But the big question is at the minute, of course, we have Iwata and Callum McGregor, who's obviously started yesterday, started the last game as well, got 60 minutes. And then there was a change. But there has been a sort of growing sort of sentiment that perhaps it might be an idea to start the match with Iwata rather than Callum McGregor for the last, for the last run-in. I'm not saying that's my view, but just that's kind of it's sort of been sort of doing the rounds. What's your own thoughts on that? And if you were Brendan, who would be starting in the middle of the park for you? Or is there a way you maybe play the two of them, or what would your midfield three be?
Same as I said last time before the Rangers game, wasn't it? It's McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly. That is your strongest three. The most influential three. Just look at Hatate for both goals. Actually, he set up. Look at what O'Reilly can do when he's on his game, albeit he's not always on his game the second half of the season. And McGregor's your captain. He's influential as hell. He's just back from an injury. He had 5 weeks out. He's probably taken a little bit longer than I would hope to get back up to match speed, but you start and play your captain if he's fit. Maybe the first game back, maybe the second game at a very big push, you might have him as a sub coming on for the last half hour to build his fitness up. But he's 4 games into it now. He needs to be starting the game, so there's no shying around it. I know the conversation is, does Iwata start over him? And this conversation's been asked even back in December, that Iwata should get some more game times and maybe McGregor should get dropped every so often. But when you go into these last few games of the season, a title to be won, you don't mess around too much. Now, unless somebody behind the scenes actually knows that McGregor's carrying an injury that he isn't 100% fit, let alone match fit, then he starts every game for me. Iwata comes on to change the game if we need to, or play alongside him if you have to, but you start McGregor, your captain, every single time. Otherwise, if you don't think he's good enough, you have to ask some questions about is he good enough to be captain? But that's a whole other hypothetical conversation, but it's way beyond the question that's being posed currently just now. McGregor starts, end of discussion for me.
For what it's worth, I agree, mate. I think just having your captain on the park, it gives them, us ourselves a lift. But I just can imagine, Franny, obviously what your own thoughts are on it. But for me personally, I just think, especially in the next coming weeks, we've obviously got Hearts at home. We then have who are absolutely going to try a hell of a lot harder than they did last week. Next week is their cup final, essentially. We then have the derby itself, and I struggle to think what kind of advantage we would have by not playing McGregor. And I would imagine if you're in the Rangers dugout and you see that McGregor's not made it, I think that automatically gives them a boost. The Celtic captain who's been there and done it, won more trophies than you can shake a stick at, not fit for the start. It would probably give them a boost.
I think if you're a Rangers player, you look over and you don't see Celtic's captain in that starting lineup, I think that's got to give you a boost. I mean, obviously didn't start the last game, and he wasn't great when he came on. You could see he was miles off it. He was never ready to be back for that game. But you go back to the first 2 games, the one at Ibrox, the one at Parkhead. Now, you could argue that the one at Ibrox, why is Michael Beale giving him essentially the freedom of Ibrox to do what he wants to do? McGregor, I think, was coming under a bit of criticism. Hadn't started the season great, but then was absolutely fantastic. That game was fantastic. The game at Parkhead. We all know what he can do in these fixtures. He is a big game player. I think I've watched lyrical about McGregor many times. I think he's a genuine player that could have probably arguably maybe the moment's passed him a wee bit to go to the top, but I still think he could go down to the Premier League and playing any team in that Premier League. I think he could have done it any time in his certainly in recent history anyway. He could have went down there, but just pure loyalty to Celtic, he's never ever done it. And I just think it is that old sort of a cliche one of players need to get match fit, and the only way they get match fit is playing matches. And then but also then you're looking at going, it wasn't necessarily great, but then Matt O'Reilly I don't think was great. Hatate, like I said, I don't think many were great yesterday. So could you maybe, I'm not saying I would do it. Like I think Hatate Awat is a good player as well. I think he actually gave a wee bit of shored things up a wee bit when he came on and stuff. I thought we looked a wee bit more solid. Now that can happen. That is not me advocating to play him ahead of McGregor. I don't think you drop your captain on the back of a couple of bad performances. I know he's not had the greatest of seasons, but now more than ever, you need your captain to step up. He's the one that's more likely to step up in this run-in. So for me, I would go with him. There is maybe an argument to, I'm not saying drop Hatate, but maybe give him a wee bit of rest in the game against that. So I certainly wouldn't, but you could maybe do that and put McGregor forward one. And my only logic behind that is just obviously because Hatate's back after a long layoff. Maybe just a wee bit I know he's only played a couple of games, but you could maybe just get a wee bit of fatigue. Maybe the first couple of games he was playing on adrenaline and stuff. But for me, if it's one or the other, when it's McGregor or Awata, no slant on Awata. I think he's a good player. He's done okay the whole time he's here. But it's got to be McGregor for me. It's got to be McGregor.
That's fair, mate. I mean, as I said, not blind to Awata's strengths. I think he's a really good technical player, but for me, especially the next two games coming up, Callum McGregor every day of the week for me. I have to say. Now, in terms of other personnel, as I say, we've obviously spoke about James Forrest's contribution with the 2 goals, McGinty, but there's another sort of discussion that's been sort of coming up in the sort of since yesterday, and that is the potential for him to be joining up with the Scotland squad to go to the Euros. Possibly, I would have said even at the start of the season that would have been a long shot, to say the least. Having said that, now Scotland, we don't actually have too many natural wingers, although not necessarily Steve Clarke plays that kind of way anyway. But we've not had our injury problems to seek. There's and the fact that there's a 26-man squad. With his experience, would you, if you were Steve Clarke and you had the power, would you book him on the plane?
I'd be on the plane regardless. As far as I'm concerned, he's one of the most experienced players that we can call upon from the Scotland point of view, and his talent is there to be seen. I mean, he's barely kicked a ball this season, yet in the last 2 or 3 games he came in, got 3 or 4 goals, won us a couple of games, a couple of points. We all talked about Adam Ida, his impact when he first came in for his first few games. We all talked the fact he probably got us 7 points out of nothing at times with his penalties against Motherwell and whatnot as well. The same could be said about Forrest. Came in out of the cold, and he's looked every bit the part, as if he's played all season. He's just been fluid. He's just stepped right into it. It's no looked like he's been out of place. He's no looked like he's not much sharp or anything. He's got a good few goals, and quite literally he's won us a few points at the tail end of the season now as well. If he goes on, I can understand before this point of James Forrest coming back into the team that he might not be getting a look in, because Steve Clarke might be thinking, right, it's not it's not a system of play that utilises a player like Forrest. He's been out of the team. He's not playing. We don't know how sharp he is and whatnot. But see if he's going to keep playing the next 4 games, which I expect him to. Realistically, you really do expect him to start the next couple of games. Then you'd be a mug not to take him to the Euros. He's a game changer at times. He's one of the best talents that Scotland could call upon. Why would you not? He's proven that he is match sharp. He is fit. He's ready to go. And he can influence games.
Absolutely. I would absolutely agree with that. Franny, I think one of the other possible things that we should consider as well is the fact that this has been a long, hard season for a lot of the players in that Scotland squad. James Forrest is going to be relatively fresh with the fact that he's not played, 40, 50 games before that. But also as well, when you look at what he's won at Celtic, but not only that, he's played in the big games, in the big arenas over the course of his career. So he's kind of got that kind of veteran status as well. When for a lot of the Scotland players, this might be their first kind of foray into the big major sort of events. That experience would be crucial as well. If you were Steve Clarke, what would you be thinking right now?
Well, I certainly would take him, but it's more. I'm trying to, because obviously Steve Clarke kind of plays like the 5 or the 3 with the 2 wing backs, depending on how you want to look at it. And James Forrest could play at that wing back role. I don't think I would see him definitely not as a starter anyway. Obviously, injuries might play a big factor in that, but because I think Hickey right now is touch and go, but Nathan Patterson probably get the nod before him. Then even Ralston will probably get the nod in that wing back position before James Forrest, I would imagine. But I might be wrong, but I'm sure you can take 26 players now for the major event, the European Championship. So that kind of allows you to be a wee bit more imaginative and not necessarily, but not necessarily take players that will suit the system that you like to play, but game changers. You could be a bit think out the box where a James Forrest or a Ryan Fraser that could maybe change the game for you. Because like we touched on earlier, James Forrest's finishing ability is top notch for me. So you just never know. It could just give you that goal, change that thing. He's got good dribbling ability where he could run and beat a man. So for me, with the extra 3 players that you're allowed to take, I don't see you're not going to waste one of them in a goalkeeper. I think you'll take 3 goalkeepers tops. It doesn't make sense to maybe waste that on a 4th choice keeper. You could argue a striker, but Steve Clarke tends to only play 1 up top, and you've got, you'll have Shankland will obviously go, Shea Adams, Lyndon Dykes will go. After that, who really is that? Ollie McBurney? Nah. I'd actually take somebody for Fultish United before I take Ollie McBurney, in all fairness. I'm trying to think who else is, but we're not as blessed with great strike. Colin Nisbet, you would probably take him, but I think Forrest is in with a shout, especially if he plays sort of for these last couple of games, because you tend to find something like in major events, somebody will maybe just get a wee wild card selection, if you like, just based on form, not throughout the season, but maybe in the lead up to it, because these tournaments are all about momentum. So if Forreston could turn in another 3-4 good if he plays every game, another 5 good performances, then he's going with real momentum. I say, not saying necessarily at the start, but he could go to that tournament with a lot of experience, not necessarily obviously with tournament football, because Scotland don't qualify regularly, but he's got European football behind him. He plays at a big club at Celtic, knows what it takes to win, knows the demands that it takes to get over the line and stuff. So I think, not without knowing obviously what Steve Clarke will think, I think it could be a smart move to take James Forrest. Just as I say, it gives you that option to maybe change it up, because I think most sort of major tournaments like your World Cups and Euros, I think you can name everybody in the squad, including on the bench. I don't think it's limited to about 11 players or something. So you've got 11, 12 subs that you can pick with. So it makes sense to maybe take them.
Yeah, I agree, and especially with the sort of injury crisis that Scotland has at the minute as well. I'm actually struggling to see a reason why we wouldn't take him, to be perfectly honest. But I think we need as much of these big game players as we possibly can. But the Euros is for another day, McGinty, because until then we have got a massive end to the season to come. Obviously, we've got the cup final, but between now and then we've got another 4 massive matches. 3 of which will be at home, which I think it could be absolutely vital. But first up, we'll not delve too into. I know the guys on Friday night will do that, but we've got 2 huge home games coming up now, and a week to prepare for each one. Obviously, as I said, just my own personal opinion, I don't for 1 second think Hearts are going to line up or set up the same way that they did last Sunday, and I'm sure they'll be a little bit more meaty in the challenges as well. But this is a massive game for Celtic on Saturday because it gives us that chance to put, yes, I accept Rangers are at home on the Sunday, but Celtic, if we take our chances, put that little 6-point gap back on the map again, it could be, it's asking more questions of Rangers' resolve.
For sure. I'm not surprised that Hearts is the game that we played before the Derby game the week after. I'm fully expecting. I mean, people outside our sphere will call us, paranoid and green tinted specs, all the rest of this kind of nonsense. But it's no surprise that Hearts basically lie down to Rangers, and they do most certainly. Even if we want to pretend that they don't lie down, they most certainly do up the game aggressive wise against Celtic. They have a point to prove. It's a big game for them. The same way that any team goes into a big game, be it a derby, be it a local rival, or a title challenging game or whatever. Most teams up that game and put a bit more fire in the belly as such, and Hearts do that against Celtic. So it is, for me, no surprise that they made the fixtures fall this way. And let's not pretend that they didn't make it fall this way, because they clearly did. They were delaying the fixtures for X amount of reasons, and one of them is to make sure that the fixtures fall in a certain pattern for the TV, for the police to know what games are going to be when title deciders might happen. Or they know when these games are falling. You're naive as fuck if you don't think that this is these fixtures aren't planned in some way. Perhaps not as perhaps not as maliciously as I would probably try and tell you that they are, but they are literally.
I get it, mate. I get it.
And it's no surprise to me that this is a Hearts game. The other one this possibly would have been Kilmarnock, but it's really no surprise it's Hearts. They're going to kick us off the park. They're going to try and coax us into fouls themselves. We know that we get refereed to a different standard. Just look at the last Hearts game. They'll coax us in to try and get red cards if they can, and we might. I don't think we'll drop points this weekend, but I think they'll definitely try and do one over us to try and restrict our game for the week after, because at this stage Hearts have pretty much nothing else to play for. They've got a third place sewn up. The season's pretty much done. So why not help their brothers across the city?
Yeah. Indeed. And Franny, can't argue with this is for us biggest game of the season so far. You could argue there's a real chance, as I say, to put that pressure on Rangers. I don't imagine Derek McInnes will have Kilmarnock too upbeat for going to Ibrox on the Sunday, but it's always good to just ask that question anyway, and that's why it's important that we do our business on Saturday.
Well, that's it. We touched at the top of the show. Rangers asked the question of Celtic on Sunday, and Celtic answered back. So obviously, both teams have got home games. On paper, you would Celtics is the harder game, but obviously, excuse me, we play on the Saturday, so we have the chance to ask them the question. Obviously, in an ideal world, you go and batter Hearts 2-3, 4-0, what a real confident, comfortable victory. I think that's the only possible, only realistic way you put real pressure on Rangers at home. I think if it was an away game, it might the nerves might get there, especially if it was actually at Kilmarnock, where we know the pitch isn't great. Obviously, Rangers' recent form, especially away from home, hasn't been great. So that, for me, would ask more a question. I don't see any slip-ups by either team. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me in the arse, but I don't see either team slipping up. But like you say, we do our bit on Saturday, then they've got to sit in that for 24 hours. Obviously, we only had an hour or so after the game on Sunday there, but they'll have 24 hours to... You just don't know what the psyche is of the players and stuff. You would think as professionals, I'm not getting too hung up in it, but you just don't know why. You just don't know. And then the fans, maybe, especially it being a home game, it will be packed to the rafters, no doubt. But if Kelly can somehow just drag it out and just eke everything out the game and frustrate them, the fans just may turn, and you just never know. All you've got to do, Anthony, is do your own job, and as simple as that. Is do your own job, and we win the league. And like you have said, ask the question of them. If they answer it, fair enough. We move on to the derby, and the derby then becomes similar to what Roger said the last time round. It becomes a must not lose for us. And I think if we can obviously go to the following week, the 11th of May, with a 3-point advantage, it's a must not. And obviously, I know they won't be of the attitude of saying we must not lose, but we must not lose that game, and we have 2 games to sew it up, and we have a 3-point advantage. I'm fairly confident. I'm more confident we've got to get it over the line, but it's not got to be good for the heart. I think it's got to be nervy.
Yeah, it's going to be quite the month, boys. I really do believe that. But here's hoping when June rolls around, we've had a good month celebrating. Touch wood. But like we say, 1 down, 4 to go in the league. But it's going to be a long few weeks, I think. But one thing that's not going to be long, I think, is tonight's show, boys, because after our mammoth efforts last week, I think at one point the Avengers assembled quicker than we finished up on Friday night. But I was just we're conscious we've obviously got 3 episodes to get through this week, and we've not got a midweek game to focus on. So it's for the viewers tonight, it's relatively short and sweet. But I think we've kind of covered all the main points from yesterday, and going forward to what we hope is going to be a huge one and pivotal moment in the title race on Saturday. So yeah, short and sweet from us tonight, boys. Have you enjoyed being on anyway, though? Back the Monday night team back together.
Always good, Anthony, to come on and just talk. Like you say, there's not necessarily, apart from the game, there's not massive Celtic news coming out, but I would rather it be that way, because then it means the team's focused in it.
Very true, mate. We just keep doing our thing and let all the rest of them make the noise. What about yourself again, mate?
No, absolutely. It's fine with me having a nice, quick, easy one. Got work in the morning, so that's good for me. But it's been a pleasure as always, guys. As I say the last couple of weeks, it's good coming on here now. We're win with the positivity, with knowing that we're 4 games away from a title, even probably less than 4 games, to be honest, if we beat them in two games time. So it's good. All's good, man. Absolutely.
Well, and thanks again to everybody for listening in. There's a few new names that I didn't quite recognise here, so if this is your first time watching the show, by all means, like and subscribe and tune in. As I say, live 3 times a week now, Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, all for the same time, 8:30. So I'm not sure who the lineup is for the midweek double pivot show, but I'm sure we'll find out on Wednesday night when you tune in. So
we'll find out in the middle of May when Stephen does a bloody schedule.
Once we actually get a schedule, no pressure, Stephen.
If only we had a high leader to do that for us.
Absolutely. That's great. Thanks very much, guys. All the best, and we shall see you on Wednesday, and then no doubt back again Friday night, and then next Monday as well. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.